Hey friends, Monodux here with a quick tip on creating transposable patches with your 960 and your ARP 2600. This is a feature that I really wanted to have just to simplify playing and changing things live. Turns out it's very easy to do, so I just figured I'd show you how that works real quick. I'm just using a 5-note sequence, single row, and I'll show you how I've got it patched up so that I can transpose with the keyboard. So right now I've got a note. You can't see the keyboard, it's off camera, but I've got a note running, and when I hit another key, it transposes the sequence. And it's tracking very well across the keyboard, so it's working just fine. That saves you so you can use your alternate rows for completely different kinds of sequences and transpose with the keyboard. Pretty cool. Anyway, let's talk about how it's set up. Alright, so in previous videos I've shown you how to set up the 960 sequencer to use its internal oscillator, which is what I'm doing today. So that, as in the previous video, is running into the preamp to get us a little bit more gain. And that gain from the oscillator output is going over to the trig in. And the reason for that is that I'm actually using my ADSR for both amp and modulation envelope today. So the same envelope that's controlling my amp shape is also controlling my filter frequency. And then in addition to that, what I've got is the pitch data coming out into the multiple, and I'm sending from that to the FM control of each of my oscillators. Now, what I've done a little bit differently today is that I'm using my MIDI keyboard, and I'm actually finding that using the MIDI keyboard works really well. Because we do have an input mixer on each one of our oscillators. So I'm taking the signal from the 960 and sending it in as a modulation source instead of replacing the keyboard CV, which is what I was doing before. So instead of doing that, use it in one of your modulation lanes. And I've got that maxed out top value there. And I'm just running it into whatever. It doesn't matter which one of your inputs in, but just crank it all the way up. And in addition to that, I'm just using my MIDI keyboard, which doesn't require a patch. So that means I've got 2 control signals running into my oscillators. If I strike a key on the keyboard, it's not doing anything because that's not what's running the gates and opening the amp envelope for us. That's the sequential controller. So when I run the sequential controller, I'm getting my gate information from that, and when I give it a keyboard key press, then I send that voltage plus whatever voltage is coming out of the sequential controller, and that's how I get transposition. So it's really simple. Just thought I'd share that with you because it's great fun. Just run your CV from your sequential controller into one of the modulation inputs. That way you can have both of your signals. If you're curious about it, you can use keyboard CV if you're using a voltage control keyboard as opposed to MIDI input. It works just fine. I tested it this morning. And that's it. Really simple. So right now my sequencer is sending pitch information, pitch voltages, and I'm just going to press keys on the keyboard and that gets added to what I'm doing there. And it's pretty important, I will say, pretty important to time your key presses, because otherwise, if I do it off time, like you can hear it kind of bend the pitches, and it's sending sort of an additional gate. So You want to just time it with the sequence. And if you're curious about the sound, I'm just running my standard oscillator mixes, the default mixes. I've got ADSR controlling the filter frequency, and I'm also running a LFO. This is a triangle wave at the lowest speed, which gives it a little bit of movement. I've got some delay coming from my digatone as well. Yeah, so it's tracking great all across the keyboard, working really well. And that's it for today. Just a simple patch, show you what you can do if you want to transpose your sequencer with your keyboard. Just send both controls into your oscillators and you're good to go. All right, happy patching. Thanks for watching.